everyone. Welcome back from our little technical break. We still have match number 2 ready to go on Antarctic. It's going to be nice and cold, but the competition's just warming up. Our first Owl versus Contenders match for knockouts.
It is indeed, Lemon, and this gives me a little bit of time to give you the lore drop on Seonjun, who our lovely colleague Paulsable from the Contenders Korea broadcast gave me the lowdown. Plays a lot of the flankers, very much a specialist on Tracer, also got a pocket pick on the Echo and the Genji, so filling a very similar hero niche, of course, to Prophet, going to fill all the same kind of roles that Prophet did beforehand. And he has been able to play up against great teams like Top Dragon and Heesang when it comes to going up against O2 Blast and Sin Prissa when they had Top Dragon on the team, and play a very close Tracer against them. And this is definitely going to be filling in a bigger pair of shoes. It feels like on some middling teams, he's been a standout player. But finally, he's not going to be the one who has to carry the team, just has to play serviceably. And of course, going to be going up against a very known quantity on Tracer in a Pritta, who's been tearing up Chinese contenders for as long as we can remember, and had a fairly unrecognizable stint in Overwatch League. Playing as an understudy to leave is always going to leave you feeling like a second fiddle, and certainly that was the case with a Pritta last year. But might be much more manageable to go up against Seonjun here and have a Tracer versus Tracer. I'm expecting a lot of the same kind of Prophet hero pull out of this.
On this team, actually, Pritta plays a lot of the Sombra, and Pineapple plays a lot of the Tracers, so things have changed up just to play a lot of double flanker on this team. What's interesting, too, is the tank matchup. Odium has been this ultimate flex tank. Flanks is what I'm going to call him. D.Va, Winston, Hammond, Queen. He can play it all. And then Void will be starting for the Dynasty. I wonder how long he's going to stay in terms of the maps. Yes, he starts on a lot of control, but they've been incorporating him on almost the entirety of the matches as of late over Belosria, where Void is very much known for his Zarya, Queen, Ramatra, a lot of the rush tanks. So I think this is what's going to bode well for the Dynasty going on to Antarctic, where the majority is these rush tanks.
Yeah, the Rush Tank's definitely going to be a mainstay of Antarctic Peninsula every single time. And of course, we've seen a lot of teams leaning over, even pre-buff, over to Junker Queen. She brings a lot to the table with the Commanding Shout speed boost and overhealth to try and have those quick and brutal engagements that don't allow for the longer kind of fights where you can really get more value out of something like Ramatra with multiple cycles of the Nemesis form cooldown. But Ramatra definitely seems to be the more consistent of the two tanks. Of course, you don't get a huge amount of protection for the rest of your team. No shield from the Junker Queen, and that can leave them fairly vulnerable. On the other side, we have Belosria, who doesn't play as many of the rush tanks, but is a notable ball specialist. On Philadelphia Fusion previously, Belosria almost carried them to a mid-season madness run with the Wrecking Ball, and over on the side of Soul Inferno, as they're now called, they're still leaning into the ball. Mag is playing it incredibly well. Alas, against, like you said, a Pritta playing a lot of the Sombra recently, I don't think we're going to see as much room for ball shenanigans in this particular matchup.
And Pineapple is an interesting flex, too, because he plays a lot more Echo than your usual DPS. So if they want to take to the skies and be that tank buster, Echo is something uncommon to see and may demand more hit scan attention from someone like Prophet or Sunjun, the new player. I wonder kind of how those rules are going to be. This is our first match, witnessing the Seoul Dynasty with this new player and how they're going to adjust without the experience of Prophet. Former Prophet, I guess, on the roster. There's new Prophet, old Prophet, retired Prophet, I don't know. But we'll be heading into match soon for Antarctic, 1st to 3. And I'm excited to see if we're going to have a contenders team kind of close the gap in terms of skill with another Owl team.
Yeah, this is probably the closest that we're going to get, as a stricken Owl team is currently in a little bit of a freefall. One of the things that does concern me is when I was talking to Paulsable about Seonjun, didn't mention a Mei. That's something that Prophet's been filling, especially if we look towards Void's rush tanks. In our previous matchup, we saw a lot of Mei being played in conjunction with both Rein and Ramatra. If the Mei is not as much of a viable option for either Prophet or Seonjun, that could be a very big hole in the armory of these rush compositions that might be patched over with something like a Genji, but you still can't fulfill the same kind of slowing role that Mei brings to the table, as well as the battlefield control that access to the map editor with the wall gives you.
And then the next match after this, so we have Rose versus Seoul Dynasty. The winner of this faces the Hangzhou Spark. coming in, I believe, as the third seed from Owl. So we'll see if Rose, the number one team from APAC, is able to withstand Seoul Dynasty. Rose have been able to beat maybe the middle of the pack Korean teams like a Panthera, but not able to touch, I believe, Poker Face was a match that they lost 3-0. So a lot of potential behind Rhodes, but where do we set our expectations when they struggled against the top of contenders? But where does Seoul Dynasty fall into those power rankings, considering they just made a roster change and they find themselves in the bottom two of Owl? And that's what's been so interesting about the APAC Open. You compare the regions, now knockouts, you're comparing contenders to Owl, and how everyone's going to match up. Yeah, I wouldn't automatically predict Owl all the time.
Yeah, and Seoul Dynasty in particular have lost to the Shanghai Dragons, who many would consider one of the weakest teams in Overwatch League right now, right up there with the Vegas Eternal, kind of a battle of the 19th/20th place in the power rankings. And Seoul Dynasty having lost to that is it is a big stain. I'm not gonna lie, it's a huge stain on their competitive history with this particular roster, which, while not very long, has been incredibly distressing for a good number of Seoul Dynasty fans. I don't think anyone was expecting Seoul Dynasty to do better than last year as they shifted up their roster, but they certainly weren't expecting the free fall that we're currently expecting, and it would really be kicking them in the bruises if they were to be the first Overwatch League team to be hoisted by a contenders roster. Even with Rhodes being a roster that does have a significant amount of former Owl players from China, this is a high caliber team. Remember, with Chengdu Hunters currently not participating / fielding a roster, a lot of these high tier players have spread out amongst the other teams, including many in contenders. Kaneki, you might recognize as a name, previously played DPS, I believe, for the Chengdu Hunters, is actually playing support on this roster, and that seems to be an increasingly common transfer for DPS players, especially flex DPS players, to move over towards the flex support role, which is so heavily stacked on AIM. Here's a look at the Rhodes roster itself. Odium, possibly the least known of all of these players, but seems to be very, very versatile and playing a big selection of main tanks as well as off tanks.
I love the Kaneki haircut. It's even anime-esque in the pictures. You got the black hair. It's very protagonist of them. We'll see if they're going to be the main characters after this. Because of their seeding, they face an Owl team, which is a tough challenge. Obviously, you have a lot of tape to study the Seoul Dynasty from the qualifiers, and in terms of scrimming them, in terms of how you match up against them, it's yet to be seen. But some of the best Chinese representatives are on your screen for Rhodes. Minus, I guess, Ligue finds himself on another team. We witnessed him lose just now. And Dynasty is their opponent, where yes, not a ton of hope behind them because of the whole 5th place, but I just gotta say that APAC is really stacked right now. So I don't fault for Dynasty struggling against the talent that we have.
Yeah, a lot of teams coming out of a woodwork like Guangzhou Charge, what we did not expect to dominate as hard as they have. Here's a quick look at the overall roster. Remember, Prophet is still on this Seoul Dynasty roster. He's waiting to recover. It's not going to be missing forever, but in this incredibly important knockout stage, he's not going to be showing his face. Sondren, the new kid, are still up here on the webcams, and of course, Void is a former world champion. This guy has been at the highest highs, but right now, Dynasty are digging a grave in the lowest of lows, and this is for chance for Prophet as the new kid on this roster in terms of their mainstay 5 to prove that he belongs here, because he has had to play second fiddle to Prophet thus far on a bunch of losses. This needs to be where Prophet proves his value to the Seoul Dynasty.
And then Void, see how long he stays in the series. Usually he's subbed in for 1 or 2 maps. Belos Ria had most of the playtime. And then after kind of the Belos Ria versus Piggy matchup, it's just a lot of confidence loss in Belos Ria, or maybe he just needed more time to improve. And it feels like Void has been taking a lot of that charge as the sort of new tank leader for this squad. And I think you call the best man for the job when it comes to Antarctic Peninsula, where Void does specialize in Zarya Queen, Ramattra, all the best tanks for this map. We'll see if maybe they'll want to flex to any kind of dive for a sub-level in particular. But our players are playing online right now, and it's cool that in the WDG studios, they host watch parties for fans to stop by and have cool signs up. So Hopefully the players return soon.
I heard that there are some French fans around at the moment, having traveled all the way from France, possibly on a long trip to stay for the mid-season madness, watching some Overwatch League in the studio, which is awesome for them. That's it's an interesting pilgrimage to take. Obviously, esports pilgrimages have always generally moved towards Korea, a cultural center for esports, whether it's StarCraft, Overwatch, or other esports as well. Antarctic Peninsula on your screen right now, and if we are going to be starting off on Icebreaker as the current vista suggests, then this is certainly going to be one of the places where dive is least likely to happen, and instead for Rush will be movement. I've been pranked, but still, the dive remains, and I'll have to see if Seoul Dynasty have convinced Sonjun to bring out a Mei here, which could be incredibly important.
Yeah, it will be the Ramatra Rush from Seoul with the initial Symmetra TP for positional advantage. Mei Sojourn with the double flanker Doomfist. I don't think I've seen Odium play this in the opens. Of course, I didn't study the millions of tape in the regular season. But this is how you dive in and out very quickly. You can be vulnerable to sleeps and slows, but no Ana from Seoul Dynasty as Lee Soo-min was hacked by Pineapple and collapsed on by Aprita. Quick execution by Rose, as Odium was successful at punching one member of Seoul Dynasty off the high ground, but is looking for more of a group up. And man, it's Aprita who is just disgusting. Has killed 3 this fight alone, 74% to a pulse bomb.
We talked, Lerman, about how Rhodes like to continually rotate Pineapple and Aprita between the Tracer and the Sombra, and I do think that Aprita has a greater pedigree as a Tracer, certainly proving so here, but it's the speed and aggression of Rhodes that's really going to confound a newly generated Seoul Dynasty in terms of their comm structure. They're so fast. Lee Soo-min's going to have to respond to these very quickly.
Oh, Aprita got punished. Sonjun able to show himself off for Seoul. After, I was getting kind of worried. I don't want to be a first fight Fernando or anything, but Rhodes' execution right out the gates was deadly. Sonjun with 2. That fight gives Seoul back the point.
Hey, what a way to prove that you belong on this roster than carrying the first fight that your team wins. Prophet slept, executed. Seoul Dynasty now going to peel a little bit back. They will, of course, be able to contest the point when Rhodes start to pressure it, but they need to give Prophet as much time to return as possible.
Oh, Void. Very present to help Sonjun contest that point, too, instead of just trust the Tracer to do just that. Aprita did bring Seoul Dynasty low with the early pulse bomb, but it's Seoul Dynasty that stalled it out, got all 5 members back. EMP from Pineapple. Only hits Void, I believe, if anybody. Not sure what happened. Seoul Dynasty counter with the Kitsune Rush. Pineapple will translocate out as Rose hopes to run away from this fight and counter with their own Kaneki with the Kitsune Rush plus the Nano onto Odium. Soundbeer in response from Krillin only hits the 3 as Void hopes to hold the wall at the front. Rampages through Odium and Pineapple. It's ult after counter ult with Seoul Dynasty benefiting from the point capture this entire time up to 62+.
Rhodes still fighting that. Oh no, a flip! Void took his toesies off the point, and that was enough for Rhodes to turn it around. Prophet dying to Apostle as well means that now all of this is not in Dynasty's favor. They need to try and turn this around quickly, but have no ultimates to do so.
I think Rhodes should definitely chase Seoul Dynasty down, who are hanging around, but now that Void is back, Rhodes overstepped and overstayed their welcome. Sonjun able to win the Tracer duel means backline pressure. Kaneki feeling it, trying to teleport away. It is unable to. Seoul Dynasty axing their chances of coming back that fight. And you pulse a dead body, Sonjun. I know you're new, but that's kind of BM. But Seoul Dynasty, 1 fight away from taking round 1.
Ego early, ego often. Quiet shout out right now to Lee Soo-min. Actually playing excellent spacing from Void. Has managed to Suzu away both the effects of an EMP on Void and a stuck pulse one from Aprita. Void is currently the main target of Rhodes. They feel like this Jungle Queen is fragile and exploitable, but they need to swap away their targets, get on Lee Soo-min instead. And they do.
EMP from Pineapple. Sonjun able to blink away, but Lee Soo-min a victim of Rhodes. 99% for Seoul. We'll have to give this up. Void might as well just die on this one. Prophet didn't get the memo. Let's feed more ult charge to Rhodes instead of escaping, and Rhodes will get the point back.
But hey, Seoul Dynasty, they're fairly happy with this loss right here. Going to be able to re-engage with 4 fight-winning ultimates in the EMP, the Rampage, and both support ultimates. If you can force out something early, like a nano boost onto Odium, using something like Kitsune Rush, you're going to be well set up for a fight on the point.
Rampage available. Odium nanoed first, though. Rhodes pull the trigger. Hoping to collapse onto Dynasty, who counter with the Kitsune Rush barrier EMP. The Rhodes backline simply evaporates. And Sunjun, well, the sun is shining bright for this young player as Seoul Dynasty will be taking round number 1.
And I don't want to disparage Prophet here, but Seoul Dynasty look like they have a much more clear sense of purpose right now. I don't know if it's because they've reallocated resources. Lee Sumin is putting so much more into Void right now. Almost every Suzu is used to try and rebuff the aggression that is placed onto that Junker Queen. But maybe it's Void playing the Junker Queen instead against a team that feels that she's fragile, that feels that she's exploitable. I believe it's a sleep here from Coldest, and indeed it is, leading to a summary execution. But unfortunately, it was not enough to turn this map in favor of Rhodes. Seoul Dynasty coming out with a new player looking absolutely hot.
And Seoul Dynasty just out-tempoed Rhodes. I think right out the gates, Rhodes were able to get a hack, an execution with their Tracer. But then once they started losing members, Odium had to swap off the Doomfist to the Winston, and he'll be returning on that once again against the Queen of Void. Or King, I guess? Either way. Seoul Dynasty on the high ground. Have to fear these random arrows from Pineapple. Hanzo can find these first picks off a headshot alone. Seoul Dynasty taking up a lot of this high ground space. Knife into Odium to bring him forth into the fight. Gets healed back up by Coldest as they hope to just avoid Void and jump into that backline.
Remember, that knife is having its timer pulled out here by Void, making sure that Odium can't make any jumps while it's stuck within him, because he'll only be pulled back and his momentum cancelled. Void just needs to continue putting that into the Winston to make sure that he can't make any effective jumps onto his backline.
For now, not a lot of people are dying. Rhodes do jump in, able to take some space back from this corner. Seoul taking her time to disengage, now fight for the point. It's been unlocked for some time. Void not able to ask him a question and not being able to get heals either. Seoul only down by 1. Rhodes still fighting for the cap as Odium jumps back up to his supports to heal. And since Aprita is dead, he can't contest this cap, so Seoul will get it first.
By the way, Sonjun on his first control map with the Seoul Dynasty deadlifted the first point. 7 out of 12 final blows. Certainly looking impressive on the Tracer. Big pickup, a young prodigy, so young in fact, a big scout.
Oh, Odium nanoed, focusing a lot on Void. Pulse will finish him off. Sunju not as lucky, but an even trade. Kaneki removed. Coldest, the only healer, has to play in line of sight, is on the high ground with Pineapple and friends, as Rhodes managed to take the point back, but Seoul are hanging around looking for picks as Prophet gets collapsed on.
Brutalized there by Aprita. Seoul Dynasty now building up once again to a critical mass of ultimates. The overclock here might be difficult to shut down, but Odium needs to save his Winston barrier for that. Remember that while those railguns do penetrate through bodies, they do not penetrate through barriers, and Odium can definitely make Prophet feel very unsafe in any position using that shield.
Odium feels pressure to use the Primal, and he was in Seoul Dynasty territory, so you might as well. You throw Void off the point, land him into an ante, but Coldest and Kaneki land themselves 6 feet under. Seoul Dynasty quick to remove the support around Odium and take the point back. Seoul Dynasty have 20% away to close the gap.
And doing it for free as well against a pair of ultimates, both the Primal Rage and the Dragon Strike expended there. Pineapple's going to swap over now. Instead, onto the Sombra, hoping to get more damage onto Lee Sumin once again, I imagine, to try and once again attempt these traps, these pincers onto a vulnerable, squishy backline of the Seoul Dynasty and hopefully avoid Void.
Seoul Dynasty command the high ground, ready for a rampage, but Pineapple shows himself into the backline, removes Krillin. No sound barrier for Seoul as they hesitate to use ultimates. Kitsune Rush call being made. 3v5, now 3v4 in favor of Rhodes. We're more occupied with trying to get the point. Pressure from Rhodes to exist and remove Seoul so they can build up towards that objective time. Soundbear from Krillin hits 3. Sunjun is slept, but the Soundbear keeps him alive enough to recall as Aprita chasing down these squishy targets. Sunjun exposed, but in range of his healers. Krillin, Lee Soo-min right behind him. 75% plus for Soul. Giving up the point though. Rhodes, they cap, and they hunt for more.
Krillin a microsecond too late with that sound barrier. If it had hit, Void could use the Rampage against the Kaneki, who'd already been able to use the Suzu. There would have been no recourse for the antis that would have been attributed to Rhodes' roster. And now Pineapple. The EMP of Damocles will soon be hanging over Seoul Dynasty, but Void can still strike first with the Rampage. You gotta force the Suzu out.
Oh, Void is looking for a moment to use this Rampage, but he's got to worry about sleeps and antis. Presents himself to try and get Odium out of the picture, who didn't jump fast enough. Prophet gets the last laugh. Soul 5v4, point capped. Prophet with the second pick too at 80% plus. If Rhodes gets staggered anymore, they'll give up the map.
Can't afford anything further. And Seoul Dynasty know it. They're moving forward. Coldest is down to a beautiful stick from the new boy on Soul. And 12% remains. It'll be a mad dash to the point, but certainly can be made with this many vulnerable, or rather mobile players. And the Kitsune Rush is going to be available as well to try and facilitate a brawl on the point against this deadly Junker Queen.
Seoul Dynasty, I mean, Void waiting to rampage till Overwatch 4 at this point. Pulse misses from Aprita. Kitsune Rush from Kaneki, but he's not alive. Lee Soo-min uses his Seoul Dynasty 5v4 Rampage right through Odium to slow down his Primal Rage. But Rhodes starting to overtake this with the deadly assassin duo of Pineapple and Aprita, killing 3. Seoul Dynasty slowly losing grip on this point as Rhodes will flip and bring this down to one fight territory.
Void trying to back off here to maybe get a teleport in from Lee Soo-min, but simply can't make the distance work. Kaneki with the perfect timing there. And Aprita lies in wait. A hunter smelling out their prey. Seoul Dynasty have Void move over onto the Winston. One last touch from the dive tank. Krillin's sound barrier here could be everything. Coldest is going to beat them to the punch when it comes to the Nano, ready to be pushed over onto Odium.
Great shots by Coldest to force out that recall from Sunjun. Jumping in is Odium with Nano. The call is made by Rhodes. Dynasty's backs against the wall, who invigorate with the sound barrier. As Rhodes losing bodies fast, they drop so low but haven't died yet. Aprita half HP into the backline, but Sunjun missing, dodging the sleep from Coldest gives Soul a chance to trade backlines. 99% and away. Seoul Dynasty didn't touch. We go to round 3.
So close yet so far. Rhodes strike back with the Winston against his direct counter in the Junker Queen. But it feels like Coldest is just untouched for so much of these fights, playing up on the high ground, and that's exactly where the Ana wants to be. Odium demands so much attention, and now it's a full change of the strategies. Getting a weird feeling of deja vu from earlier. We had Dreamer who wanted to opt into that Reinhardt, going up against the Ramattra, who could just do so much damage through the barrier. Pineapple and Aprita, though, both heroes of this one.
Yeah, just comparing Sunjun and Aprita's stats, Aprita's winning by 1.6k. Similar eliminations though, but you can tell that Aprita's putting on the damage towards Void. We go to sub-level, or Icebreaker. Big rush map, Reinhardt versus Ramattra. Remember, Ramattra can shred that Reinhardt shield very quickly, so Odium and Friends of Rhodes have to be decisive and speedy with their approach. They can't afford to take that poke. As Aprita's looking for a first pick, that could be a win condition in itself. Odium taking some pressure, his main not really beside him to wall and protect him as Rhodes divided and picked apart.
Yeah, Predator on that off angle was not able to put in nearly as much pressure as Void could place onto Odium. Ramattra is so good for getting this first control in these initial fights, because you can force the Reinhardt to give up that space using the Nemesis form. And Odium now acknowledges the differential between the two tanks, goes over to Ramattra, much better suited towards this brawl, can protect himself a lot better when he gets walled as well by just popping the Nemesis form and crossing his arms, refusing to take damage. Still, Rhodes have to move into enemy territory, and that requires resources that Seoul are going to have a significant advantage on when the fight comes.
Yeah, we haven't seen Odium play this in the open, so kind of on-the-fly adaptations from Rhodes. Sunjun low, ice blocks, Void right there to protect him. Pineapple doesn't have Maywall, just used it, but Blizzard could be on the menu. The Rhodes want to make sure they're healed back up, and now you've given a chance for Sunjun to get this Maywall back. Just split up the team. Rhodes throw their Blizzard down. Sunjun and Void are frozen. The immortality from Lee Soo-min only buys them so much time, and not enough for Profit to make a big dent into Rhodes. But it's a big dent in the score. 60% plus for Seoul as Rhodes flip the point.
Excellent counter window there from Kaneki. Lee Soo-min put down his own in order to put double healing over on to Void. Still double damage coming through that. Too much to bear for a single healer. Now, though, a differential when it comes to the generation of these annihilations could be everything. Void can try and take all of this space in a quick rotation around. They decided to simply try and LOS a Predator.
Okay, a Predator is behind them, so Seoul Dynasty kind of paused. They said, where's that overclock coming from? Now they know it's behind them. Blizzard in their face. Sunjun throws it into Rhodes. Soundbear from Coldus almost got frozen up by that. Able to drop it to possibly save his team. Forcing Seoul to make a decision to invest more into this. The annihilation from Void is the cherry on top. Rhodes had the point. Will slowly lose it. Seoul back in the driver's seat.
And Krillin critically has held his ult here, which is going to be very important when Pineapple brings the main tool to bear. Rhodes have to try and retake this in the Blizzard. We've seen how those are often centralized on the Ramattra, trying to remove that presence before the fight comes in earnest, and Pineapple's got it ready.
Blizzard. Pineapple throws it down. Void is frozen, extended, but saved by Krillin. Soundbear potentially. All the healing is going into him. The Nemesis form block keeps him up. Ant Matrix strikes fear into Rhodes, who have one last chance to race to the point to contest it before game one goes to Seoul. Maywall right at the door. Does Rhodes have another answer? Coldness is booped off. And that is all she wrote. Seoul Dynasty take game one.
A May wall and a Ravenous Vortex make sure that even a freed maid from the wall simply is too slow to touch. But we've got to give credit to Krillin and Lee Soo-min for responding so well to that Blizzard. Not only using the Amplification Matrix to get double healing from a Baptiste onto that vulnerable tank, but Krillin hitting a clutch sound barrier to make sure that Lee Soo-min had time to set that up. In order to try and kill Void there, we saw Rhodes get too aggressive, get too punishable, and that sealed the fate of Icebreaker.
Even sub-level was just pure chaos. The one round that Rhodes did take, I mean, it came off of Seoul stepping off the point for half a second at a 99 to 99 scenario. This was just who could trade a backlines quicker, but on Icebreaker, you're exactly right. Void showed his experience and his comfortability on Ramattra, but you gotta also praise the fact that Rhodes are trying to adapt on the fly. A lot of contenders teams aren't, brave enough to make these big decisions, and imagine the nerves going on in the Rhodes camp that you have to face an Owl team in your very first match. But Seoul Dynasty lead this one 1-0, and after the break, we'll find out where Rhodes want to head to next. Seoul Dynasty are up 1-0 against the number 1 team coming out of the APAC region, 3rd seed coming out of Group B. It's Rhodes. But we've called in some reinforcements leg day. Belos Ria's coming in for the Seoul Dynasty.
Belos Ria coming in. Of course, more of a main tank enjoyer than our good friend Void, who prefers the rush tanks and often the off-tank preference of the Ramatra. Odium, of course, going to be staying in as the only tank on Rhodes. But Dynasty, how is their comp going to swap up now? And of course, Dynasty, they just beat the Shambali one-track allegations. They managed to win a control map, which is a great start for Dynasty. Admittedly, they are against contenders competition rather than the Owl teams that have mopped them up and down the garden path for the last couple of weeks. Alas, still, Pineapple and Aprissa, this is a difficult duo to get past. And of course, it was a close control map as well, with Coldest being able to essentially free cast for most of sub-level, allowing him to dominate on the Ana. Belos Ria's had a tough time so far on the Seoul Dynasty, I think it's fair to say. And while we know this player has immense talent, he proved it on the Philadelphia Fusion last year. The integration of tanks onto Seoul Dynasty has not looked amazing today, though. That's where it's all changed. I feel like Seoul Dynasty play much more cohesively because we're seeing tanks survive attacks. And previously, that was nowhere to be seen on Seoul Dynasty. Tanks were dropping like flies in front of Lee Soo-min and Krillin, who were just caught flat-footed and lacking so many times. But in our little break that we've had for Seoul Dynasty, it feels like Krillin and Lee Soo-min have finally been able to reconstitute how they're applying their resources to keeping Void alive, and hopefully the same for Belos Ria.
Belos Ria has grown a lot from his Philadelphia Fusion days. There was a lot of coordination, kind of hesitation, uncertainty around just mostly his Winston. And I thought he really shined bright for Philly when the ball meta was prevalent. And then in this season, I think kind of took a back seat to Void in some matches. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 where Seoul Dynasty had fully subbed in Void to see what their chances were like. Where Seoul Dynasty's only win in the qualifiers was against the Seoul Infernal in the very first match, where they caught him lacking. But Rhodes will be catching a map pick, heading over to King's Row, where they haven't learned their lesson. They want to go to another rush map.
They do want to go to another rush map, Lemon, but curiously, if it does work, go and change it, say Dynasty. Not going to be playing the classic rush tank in Void, Belos Ria. Like, are we going to see more Winston on King's Row? It has become kind of the de facto tank now. Classically, King's Row's been very rush favored, as you talked about, and honestly, maybe they're trying to bait Seoul Dynasty into playing a more rushy style of King's Row, or they'll be able to play their hyper-aggressive double flanker that's previously been their bread and butter.
King's Row, strong, but after you get rid of Void, who was kind of their rush star, you bring in Belos Ria, who's been playing so much Winston. You're expecting the dive, but what is going to be the answer to Odium, who has played D.Va? He's played every tank under the sun of D.Va, Ramatra, Ryan, Ball even. Odium can be the counter pick guy, but can he make the right call? And being the jack of all trades isn't necessarily a great thing either if you can't be the master of a certain tank. But out the gates, it's Seoul with the dive.
Going to try and get a little bit more mastery on the Ramatra at least here. Pineapple on the Ashe. Certainly a pick with increasing relevance all across Overwatch League, but no pocket behind it. Rhodes' support line is certainly more aligned with something that we'd expect from, say, the Florida Mayhem, where they have 2 very heavy aiming supports who try to get the most value possible out of the high damage that we put out of both the Ashe and the Kiriko.
Oh, Prophet, body shot on the Pineapple. Gotta be wary of that first pick potential from Hanzo. Pineapple on the Ashe. You know, the Bob presence is a good way to allow Odium to step off an objective and have the Bob be present and rain down the dynamites. But really, you want to use the coach gun to dodge Belos Ria as best as you can. Which, speaking of Seoul, they just haven't put any pressure on the point yet. They're busy trying to win the fight into the backline. Sunjun goes, gets Odium low, no finish yet. Seoul Dynasty start to surround the Rhodes defense as Seoul begin the capture of that first hit. Kaneki exposed, unsure how to connect between Odium and Pineapple at different sides. And Odium gets to just simply beat Krillin to death. So the Rhodes defense maybe no longer chilling after losing Coldest. 4v4 though, Seoul are taking their sweet time moving.
Brigitte has such a sad time against the against the Ramattra. There's no two ways about it. The pummel goes through the shield, a speed boost you get while a Nemesis form allows you to run down the Brigitte if they get too close, and the whip shot doesn't really move tanks as much as it used to. Now Coldest has access to the Nano, and that's going to be brutal when applied to Odium. What Seoul Dynasty are doing here is they're forcing Prophet to take away these angles from Coldest and Kaneki to try and shepherd Odium out of the LOS of his support so we can be beaten down by Seonjun.
It's almost like Seonjun is following with Belos Rhea and just being a tank buster rather than that objective anchor that Seoul Dynasty clearly need. Because as soon as you give Odium space, you nano him and he just is simply too much to handle. Seoul Dynasty need to take high grounds and get out of range of a rush. That's what the dive composition is for high ground control, and I've seen so little of that from Seoul.
Yeah, very little high ground control, especially considering that Prophet should be able to threaten so much with the headshots that can be brought out from the Hanzo. Still, once again, questing together. Seonjun and Belos Rhea are an adventuring party that wishes to get onto these squishy supports. It's Pineapple who's going to catch most of the aggression to begin with, but Seonjun's still up on the high ground, waiting for someone to come up.
All right, the Bob did get slept from Pineapple, but it is anchoring the point, so Odium was able to step back, kind of regenerate some health, go back in. That's a cycling that I love to see from Rhodes. Speaking of which, they brought Seoul Dynasty down to their last minute of pushing. Belos Rhea primaling, just vibing, I guess, not really doing anything. Rhodes, Kitsune Rush, it puts the fear in Belos Rhea's eyes, who tried to dodge to sleep, unable to do so, but Seonjun makes up for it, pulse bomb into Kaneki. Rhodes, the Annihilation slept, woken up, Seonjun says good morning, and Seoul Dynasty should be able to capture the first two ticks. We'll see if Rhodes can recontest.
Lee Soo-min doing excellent there to manage to sleep Odium, who instantly swaps over now onto the Winston. Could even be angling through a recontest here as 4 members of Rhodes still stand in the gateway, and of course won't take long for the Winston to make that jump. A Pritter's already dead though. That's going to call it Lemon. And now Rhodes, they are going to be in a very exploitable position.
The Ashe is maybe not great if you can't get to that top window as easily. Pineapple didn't even try to get into that position to support a Pritta on the recontest. And a big momentum swing for Seoul Dynasty. See if they can stagger out anyone else. Won't be threatened at the choke point. But Belos Rhea versus Odium. If Belos Rhea can't win the tank matchup on Winston against Odium, I would be very surprised. That would be a red flag for the Seoul Dynasty camp.
Yeah, Belos Rhea definitely needs to be having the advantage in this one, but remember there's a huge amount more healing going into Odium as well. The raw healing, there's consistent healing from the Kiri so high.
Yeah, Coldest got antied. Suzu by Kaneki responds with a nano onto Odium, who pushes Seoul away from them. Once Belos Rhea's healed back up, reemerges to that back alley, forces Rhodes off that high ground and all the way to the back of point B. Seoul Dynasty just owns so much real estate.
This car is still schmoving, and remember, Belos Rhea doesn't get knocked back on their engagements. They have to be Suzu'd if the cleave starts to come through. Meanwhile, Krillin can control Odium a lot better. The Brigitte brings so many more tools to try and stop Odium from getting a big engage, so Odium's forced to sort of slowly crawl forward and try and force out that whip shot in advance.
Big ult advantage for Seoul, including the sustain of Belos Rhea. If you want to be aggressive with it, this is the time to do so. Aperta blows himself up, and Pineapple's dead too. Seoul Dynasty didn't even have to invest that much. Rose will take themselves out. Seoul Dynasty will be capping B and maybe even getting some exit stagger kills. Good disengage from Belos Rhea, and that'll be point B for Seoul.
I really hope we get a replay later, Lemon, to try and figure out the mystery of what happened. Oh, last moment engage with a Kitsune Rush, but Nano could rebuff this fairly easily.
Well, Kitsune Rush plus a double blade from Aperta. Now he's finally supported when he wants to recontest something. Not like how the point went for Rhodes. It's 2 meters away, 41 seconds for Seoul. Gonna need to use that nano. Lee Soo-min holding on to it. Dragon Strike from Prophet, and he's getting beat down by a Primal, and then Lee Soo-min is hoping that there's gonna be another fight with 28 seconds left. Belos Rhea gets staggered here. He will. This is gonna be not possible for Seoul.
Bro, is he on Lent or something? He's given up the nano for Easter or something. Why didn't you use it to get the last point? Lee Soo-min, I'm terribly concerned, but hey, at least you'll be able to try and get a nano engage happening here to make sure that Belos Rhea has staying power on the card, but now Coldest can match it. Your door has closed. Seonjun finally gets the touch. Now you have to wait for your Winston to arrive as Sonjun continues to waste his blinks, or rather, use his blinks to keep this going.
Veloceria is now front facing. Bubble is popped. Only physically, maybe not morally. He is nanoed by Lee Soo-min. And a pick from Prophet. And 2! Well, if Veloceria takes up all the space, Prophet delivers on all ends. Seoul Dynasty surely can't be this time, right? Well, Aprita taken out before he could deliver the pulse bomb to Lee Soo-min, and Seoul Dynasty do in fact cap point B this time, but with less than 90 seconds for C.
Credit to Veloceria there, perfect shield to block the incoming sleep from Coldest, putting it down a little bit before the landing so it would form in the path of the sleep dart. That's the kind of expertise we expect to see from an Overwatch League tank like Veloceria, and finally coming to bear in these matchups that are so important. Rose don't have much in the way of ultimates to try and rebuff this push as Sonjun gets slept.
I'm surprised Sunjin didn't get blown up by his own pulse bomb like Aprita did, but still blown up nonetheless.
We can dream.
Defense. No, Dreamers are in lower bracket, but it's 5-4. Looking for more picks. I think being more aggressive here would be ideal, or at least focusing on taking Seoul Dynasty off that corner high ground. Successful at doing that. Prophet, Dragon Strike, down to the right side. Roads are split up, but Roads are not too aggressive. They're kind of hesitating.
Yeah, Rhodes don't want to be the first one to be picked and give this over to their enemies. Veloceria going deep in the backline, of course, is the plan to keep himself sustained if need be. Odium's getting far more proactive with this as Veloceria's on the other side.
Don't wake him. Oh, someone woke him. Krillin thought he was safe to come out with the rally. Veloceria is even surprised himself. Now goes after Coldest. Kaneki, the only healer. And Rhodes are already missing 2. This defense has respawn advantage, though, but Seoul Dynasty, they strike. And it's lethal. They'll go for the full cap and in overtime.
Unfortunately, overtime just ticked over, Lemon, and that might have some lasting consequences for Seoul Dynasty if we see a cap with more than a minute come through from Rhodes. But look at this, Lee Soo-min. Isn't it so nice? Don't we feel so successful and so vigorous on our Winston when we actually use our nano? That's crazy, Lemon.
That is Seoul Dynasty, especially Prophet, really turned up in the second half of that. Veloceria and friends just looked a little dozy, a little sleepy, as Aprita put to permanent sleep there with his own pulse bomb. But Seoul Dynasty just were so passive on the point cap, just kind of not as confident on taking high grounds, almost too dependent on Prophet. But Sunjun has really impressed me on the Tracer and is putting Aprita against the wall.
Oh yeah, Aprita certainly has had it brought to him multiple times. I'm wondering if Rhodes actually commit once again to this Ramattra lemon. It's going to create a big test for Seoul Dynasty's cohesiveness of play, as they're going to have to continually rotate contests on the point between their more mobile players and keep Lee Soo-min safe on a high ground that could be easily assaulted by a Prisser on the Hanzo. Prophet, of course, going to be able to do some early scouting here of the incoming composition, and likely that's going to inform Seoul Dynasty's game plan if they react to it well and start doing a cycle contest to just try and find an opening to take out Coldest.
Rhodes have Pineapple this time on the Sombra. Although Aprita and Pineapple have been able to exchange roles. Assassination in the back from defense. Good job by Prophet this time. Double flanker of Seoul against Aprita, who's going to be taking a lot of pressure if he decides to remain on this Hanzo.
It's incredibly important that Prophet continue to bring that down, because that's the only person who can really threaten Lee Soo-min with Odium's lack of vertical mobility here on the Ramattra. Krillin playing on low ground could be a real big problem. He could just ran on.
Okay, Aprita guns down Krillin. The rest of Rhodes very low. A great immortality from Coldest while he's sleeping too in Hotel. Makes it so difficult for Seoul to finish off those kills and the immortality. With the ceiling that exists. Now, almost 2 ticks for Rhodes. Recontest available. Prophet not able to hack that. It'll be up to Veloceria to contest. Sunjun presents himself from the corner. Recalls. He's gonna need some help. And if this caps for Rhodes, that's gonna be a big time advantage.
Gonna be a huge time advantage. Krillin doesn't want to be the one to put themselves on the line. Veloceria instead soaks up all the heals from Rihanna, and now no one's touching. I can't believe Krillin was playing that low when they knew they were up against the Ramcomp. You've got the scouting from the Sombra. You can't allow yourself to be run over, but credit too to Odium. Putting that shield up there in the path of Lee Soo-min is something that I didn't anticipate as a means to really force the Ana to do a less than ideal rotation and really cut off the heels from Belos Ria for too long. Seoul Dynasty lose that in record time, and now the cart's going to start moving, and there's going to be a huge advantage for this Reaper moving through the tiny choke. Big stick!
Oh, the pulse actually missed.
Was that a Yeet Suzu from below ground?
I don't think that is stick, but we'd have to trust the replay on that one. Seoul Dynasty also on their attack. It got down to the last minute before the Cavs, so Rhodes have a big advantage in terms of time. Kitsune rush. Rhodes taking so much damage from the initial EMP blast of Prophet. As the exchange happens, Rhodes go back to the point. Emerging, though, is Belos Ria on the defense with Nano close to Primal. He can play as aggressive as he wants, especially with that Reaper removed. But he doesn't want to go past the choke, at least not yet.
I want to see Belos Ria finally have a Primal Blade. Thus far, they've been very passive, mostly playing to survive. Allow someone else to be the star. Prophet in the back, forced out. And Belos Ria now will have to hold down this cart for a little bit while the rest of Seoul Dynasty make a quick disengagement. And it seems like they just want to give away for space now. They're going to allow Rose to move this way for free with Reaper and force Belos Ria into a close quarters battle, which isn't ideal.
Rhodes are good at kind of engaging, disengaging, playing the tango. Seoul Dynasty around the corner. It's their turn to strike. The Primal, Rally, Pulse Bomb by Sunjun. Seoul Dynasty are just so focused on playing passive and contesting to draw out time. Aprita, Suzu, and Wraith out. Important cooldowns used. Seoul Dynasty, Rhodes, Sound Barrier engage in. Krillin can only stun and rally the team so much. Seoul Dynasty give up the space, but the ranged damage is so much for this defense. Rhodes fall apart.
The kite so strong, and Krillin just breaks the momentum with a well-placed double stun coming through from the rally. That 21/9 ultra-wide shield catches many in its path and slows them down to a point where that sound barrier dissipates and their health bars do as well. Rhodes simply took a fight they thought was opportune but didn't have the resources to back it up. Now, you got to think about the ways that this Death Blossom can be countered. A well-placed whip shot potentially, a sleep, or even an EMP to try and shut it down with a minimized cast time on the hack. If Aprita can account for all of these, he can destroy a backline pretty quickly.
Aprita's Reaper, it has to be used to blow up Belos Ria with the mobility of the rest. It's tough to catch. EMP catches 3 of Rhodes. Kitsune rush in response from Kaneki. Aprita is sent forward to blow up the Seoul Dynasty, but Belos Ria is simply too much to handle. The Suzu teleport disappears into the shadows, so Belos Ria only gets 2 in that fight. 2 minutes left for Rhodes.
Finally, the aggressive Primal Blade we were hoping for from Belos Ria. Peter passive has evolved. And now holding at this corner. Gives space for Sonjun to try and find something out of Pulse Bomb. Alas, nothing to be given over instead. Now Pineapple is just fighting his hands with the overclock ready to go and little to try and stop it. Maybe a well-placed sleep can shut it down.
Overclock from the top. Lee Sumin down. No supports for this defense. Rhodes can't choke this now. That'll be all she wrote for Point B, although the cart still has to move quite a bit. We'll see if Rhodes can get any more stagger kills. They've used all their ultimates to make this work. Seoul Dynasty can recontest and potentially win this off support ults.
You can see Prophet on the crossfire here as well. A quick blink in, a translocator elsewhere to grab the high ground, and now you can see Belos Ria come in. But Nano's at the ready if Belos Ria wishes to get aggressive, but they need to continually dance on this cart, and that's likely going to be Krillin's job.
Yeah, just playing passive to contest seems to be the recipe for success for Seoul Dynasty. The Nano engage, waiting for that to pull the trigger. Speaking of which, Pineapple headshot to Sunjun. Good start for Rhodes. 5v4, 2 meters away from capping with only 1 minute left. Zapritis Pulse Bomb needs to be big, but it gets all the healing of the rally of Krillin. It's too much to bear for Rhodes. They don't want to sacrifice more than they already have. 44 seconds left. Last attempt coming up.
Both support ults forced out, but Seoul Dynasty continue to hold on. Now they look to Prophet and to Belos Ria to be the ones to stop. Cole disengaged with the sound barrier. Kaneki can force this out first, though. Utilizing that Kitsune rush. Remember, last time we saw this, Belos Ria was very nervous to engage into it. Belos Ria can't afford to be nervous again.
Kitsune rush from Kaneki, but Coldus jumps to try and soundbear Odium, who jumped in, and Coldus just jumped to his cold death. Rhodes have Odium slept right before the Primal. A big win condition removed, and the EMP on top. Rhodes can't even re-engage as the sound barrier hitting Aprita and the other support. A touch happens, but Rhodes, the road ending on King's Row, unable to get point B after investing so much. Seoul Dynasty, we go into match point.
And we saw a microcosm of growth from Belos3 over the course of that entire map. Belos3 is not used to getting this much from the supports. Seoul Dynasty before, they were losing tanks left and right in the OWL qualifiers, just to nothing at all. Just the Krillin and Lee Sumin being AFK essentially. But Belos3 are starting to learn to trust the healing that's there, starting to get more aggressive, leaving behind Peter passive and become beast mode Belos3. I don't know who's going to be in for the next map, Lemon, but Seoul Dynasty have certainly recaptured a little bit of cohesiveness and a little bit of vigor in their gameplay.
Yeah, just waiting for nanos, and that being the point of their engage is a good plan for Seoul Dynasty, although the generation can take some time. But Seoul Dynasty, the plan has worked out so far. They're on match point. We'll see y'all after the break. Welcome back, everyone, to Knockouts, our first Owl versus Contenders match, and it's going Team Owl's way with Seoul Dynasty on match point against Rhodes.
Yeah, we thought this one might be a little bit closer with Seoul Dynasty recently losing Prophet to a brief absence for illness and instead bringing in Sonjun, but seem to be playing fairly well today against Rhodes. To look at your Rhodes roster once again, of course, Fritter and Pineapple, a DPS duo that many people know, and Coldest as well, definitely one of the more highly regarded names in flex supports when it comes to China. A lot of people a couple of years ago were talking about Coldest as one of the best to ever do it, an incredible Zen player. But it feels like with Kaneki as a support duo, Coldest is having to kind of do the Violet thing and move over towards Lucio instead in these rush compositions, and that's not where Coldest is getting the most mileage out of his experience. They're allowing Kaneki to play on the Kiriko, which is a little bit more aim-based, of course. For DPS players, when they flex over to support, they often are moving over to those flex supports like Liana, Zen, and Kiri.
Sitting in those seats will be a different name. We were told that Void was coming in, so who's that tank player? We'll find out once he sits in his seat. But new guy Sunjun on the Tracer has been incredible. Our next map will be Rialto, where we will have the Widow off between Prophet and Pineapple. Ah, there we go.
Confirmed.
Void. Confirmed.
It's real. The one
I don't
tank
know
is
if he
real.
Once he sits down, maybe? Void, it's the Void.
He's giving Sonjun a quick pep talk. Of course, Void is he'd be a bit of a leader for this team. Being a world champion, being one of the most veteran players with Prophet elsewhere, Void's definitely going to be someone that you look to as a leader amongst what is essentially now a team of mostly rookies, with the exception of Krillin, who of course had a pretty good run on Washington Justice last year. I think definitely proved himself as an Ana player, but also, like we saw Coldest doing in this matchup, is having to fill quite a bit of the main support roles. A lot of teams rolling this year without a main support, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of teams are also kind of suffering for it.
I'm surprised that Rhodes picked wanting to go to Rialto. This was the only map they dropped against Panthera, who's a Korean contenders team. So a lot of weight on Pineapple's shoulders to be competitive against Prophet, who was the Widow, or is the Widow player on the other side. And Prophet was very competitive against Jimmy, who's one of the most feared Widows, sitting on the Guangzhou Charge, of course. Now that Void is in his seat, we'll be going to map 3 shortly, where Seoul Dynasty are 1 map away from sending their contender's opponent to the lower bracket and putting themselves up against the Hangzhou Spark next.
Yeah, let's talk about what that bracket is leading to. We have our spring stage knockouts, Lemon. We're separated into 2 groups, Group A and Group B, both double elimination. And the winner of each of these brackets will be going to Mid-Season Madness to represent East at our big mid-season LAN that's going to be happening right here in South Korea. It's so important to these teams to be able to represent their country, their region on home turf, especially in a big LAN. Remember the last grand finals we had in Korea was done almost entirely remotely. I believe that was back in 2020. We had the San Francisco Shock shipped over there. There hasn't been as many opportunities to play in front of the home crowd with these big stakes matches. And for Seoul Dynasty, a team that's been representing the capital of South Korea for 5-6 years now, it would mean so much to finally do that for this franchise. But Seoul Infernal are now also bargaining for that spot as the hometown heroes.
Seoul versus Seoul in Seoul. There's just so much Seoul happening. And for $1 million tournament, the mid-season madness is gonna be nuts. And the fact that APAC only gets 2 spots and it's the winner of each bracket. So out of Guangzhou Charge, Spark, Seoul Dynasty, only one of those Owl teams have the potential to go unless Poker Face, Rhodes, or Dreamers have something to say about it. And Poker Face being the most likely contender, being the #1 seed out of Korea to pose a challenge. And that's been the big conversation, right? Even the contenders fans versus the Owl fans. Which side is the most skilled? Who is the better team? And now we're comparing the lower-ended Owl teams versus the top-end contenders teams. And that's where the argument can be made for both sides.
Yeah, that's where the line begins to blur, Levin. But right now, it's looking pretty defined. A line where we're definitely seeing Seoul Dynasty stand on the right side of it. And Rialto, It's a map that I'm very excited to see here because it's going to mean that Prophet can finally play his favored hero, the Widowmaker. This guy coming in as a hit scan prodigy. We've not been able to see much value out of our hit scans thus far in the meta. A lot of teams opting into the Sombra, opting into the Tracer, the slower pace style of those primary hit scans, the Cassidy, the Ashe, the Widowmaker, often an afterthought, replaced often by the Hanzo as well. But this is one of the few places in Overwatch where Widowmaker can still reign supreme. We've seen Jimmy do it. We've seen Prophet do it before. He's likely going to be doing it again right here.
And this is going to be the diva off between Odium and Void. Both teams have really liked that double flanker. The difference is I was expecting to be in the support line where Coldest has played Zenyatta on Rialto before. But obviously, if you're expecting some crazy dive pressure or you're scared of the other Tracer, Zen is a risk. And Coldest likes to swap to Brig. So instead, he'll just stay on the Brig, and Rose will be attacking first. Taking over this high ground is important. Try to make that Widowmaker uncomfortable. Prophet is waiting for comms from his team to see kind of where is everybody set up, but isn't getting good vision. So Prophet might have to just fall back to a secondary location because Pineapple is right behind them ready for a hack.
Yeah, and Pineapple's also reporting the position of Prophet here, so that Rhodes can be very careful about avoiding those potential sight lines and being able to manufacture their engage without risking too many picks coming through from the Widowmaker. An unfair 1v2 here will force a recall out of Aprita, and that's Krillin's job right now. Just make sure that Aprita can't make the dangerous commute onto Prophet, and that if Prophet gets hacked by the Pineapple, they can keep it as a 1v1.
This is the kind of cycling playstyle that Seoul Dynasty have. Although it was with Belisria on King's Row, they just like to stall the cart and not hard engage. And you expect that more with a D.Va than a Winston, but they're doing that again with Void. Waiting to build up towards that Nano and then pulling the trigger. Seoul Dynasty are wasting so much time. Wishing Sunjun was anchoring this a bit more, and he just gets fragged by Pineapple. Big opening for Rhodes, who also have the Nano available. Anti hits the back line, and the call is made. Odium is nanoed, trying to confirm that kill into Krillin and Lee Soo-min. Unable to, but forcing them off the high ground, forcing that Prophet Widow all the way back is still a win in Rhodes' eyes.
Aprita can try and put this to bed now with a pulse bomb. The same could be said, of course, of the self-destruct, but Sonjun strikes first. Looks like nothing to be gained from their own pulse bomb. A counter slap from Aprita could find a mark, especially onto Krillin, would be super valuable. Lee Soo-min even better, so that it can't be Nano to rebuff the damage.
Self-destruct. Void should be able to get back into mech and keep this fight going. Half the time bank left for Rhodes with an EMP at the ready. It's an important win condition to hit Sunjun and Void. Nano given to Krillin for the sustain at the front. Void goes past the cart to get some more kills, removes 2 from Rhodes, and wins the fight for the defense.
Overall for Rhodes, this has been expensive. Yes, Sonjun used a pulse bomb. It's already been mostly recouped, though. Prophet and Sonjun both doing plenty of damage here. Aprita, once again, unable to have used the pulse bomb in the fight previous, was taken out early by Prophet. And Krillin can be the real sticking point with the rally on the cart here, but Rhodes actually have a little bit more space to move over onto Prophet now, because Krillin hasn't been able to it's been taken out as he tried to get in between Prophet and the rotators here.
5v4 for Rhodes. That's an opening. Aprita doing his job. Odium will get the cart to the choke point, but this is the stall potential of Seoul Dynasty's comp, or at least how they like to play it. And Prophet is safe in the back. Coldest and Kaneki have to be careful of exposing themselves, and I thought Aprita would have been fine with the mobility. Was not expecting him to hit that shot. Prophet delivers, but harassment at the back. Kind of seeing where this Sombra is, has to turn around. Meanwhile, Odium can take the fight at the front with the Nano, pushes Void away. Odium takes care of the pulse bomb too, but where's the progress? This is the stalemate that never ends. Rhodes are not getting much progress past 1 kill.
Seoul Dynasty have all been herded onto this bridge row. There's not going to be too much to hide from when the self-destruct finally comes out, as Odium has been able to earn it with the help of that Nano. Seoul Dynasty still, they can hold fast here. The Nano and the Rally both available. Void taken out of the mech, forced to... Oh no, Krillin died in Rally! Oh, for some
Yeah, no Rally for Seoul. 7 seconds. Rhodes with the self-destruct right at the doorway. Void is able to hide, and the self-destruct wasn't deep enough from Odium. Pineapple EMP. This is the final straw. You've messed with Rhodes long enough. 3-man EMP hits Void, Krillin, and Lee Soo-min. But the ante from Lee Soo-min hit Coldest and Kaneki, and Sunju jumped into the back. But as the dust settles, Rhodes still prevailed and were able to cap A. Oh, okay.
You don't get away with those in front of Prophet, I'm afraid. This guy only aims for the DPS, but boy, he do hit those shots. Unfortunately, too little, too late. Krillin getting booped off by Odium in the rally. Almost unforgivable. That could have been a first point hold for Seoul Dynasty if not for the absolute bottling of it. Getting completely fried by the D.Va. And now Coldest has the rally advantage. Kaneki, of course, coming up on the Nano. And Pineapple able to control this high ground very well with the Hanzo because of the unlimited access you get from those constant wall climbs, which Prophet knows about too.
Yeah, if you keep peeking that door, gonna get shot. Prophet doing just that. 5-4. As Rhodes still hanging around the corner. Pineapple is gonna go back to the Widow, so maybe he can win that ranged duel. It's gonna be tough. It's a little tougher at super long range for Hanzo to hit that shot with the arrow fall off. So Rhodes did manage to climb back up to the high ground. They have the support ultimates. Kaneki usually gives this over to Odium, but the kills have been so difficult for Rhodes to confirm. Pineapple back to the Hanzo is slowing things down for Rhodes, but that first pick potential still available. Rhodes fighting for the high ground. 1 minute left for their push.
Void being careful not to get slapped there, simply putting a little bit more pressure onto this back line, trying to force him out that back window, but good attention to detail here from Rhodes. They get their positions back, and now Odium's on the chase to try and take out Prophet. Oh, Coldest!
And Odium got slept and I guess woken up while he was nanoed. Coldest and Kaneki doing everything they can, but Aprita's the one who's putting everyone in his backpack. He's killed 3 this fight. Sunju trying to do that impression, but Void's gonna get demexed and Seoul Dynasty removed from this cart. But they did cost Rhodes so many precious seconds on this push. Only 30 seconds remain to get to point B. And Rhodes are not even getting progress despite only 1 or 2 people from Seoul left.
Yeah, those respawns ain't far away, Lemon. And remember, with this vision granted by the Sonic Arrow, Prophet can definitely rack the nerves and the bodies of any less mobile Rhodes players who dare to present themselves over here. Odium, a well-placed self-destruct could end this all, but you know that it's not going to be given over for free.
Odium can't even remove these supports from the high ground. Lee Soo-min's in a dangerous position to throw an anti-nade down. Odium self-destruct. Seoul still barely dropped. Odium allowed to get back into mech, pushes Krillin back, who reemerges with the rally. Seoul Dynasty have just built a wall in front of this cart, and Rhodes just can't kill anything. Pineapple at least proves me wrong this time. Dragon Strike to push them off the high ground. He climbs up to deal with Krillin and Lee Soo-min. As long as he can hit that shot, Aprita will go clean that up. Rhodes still aiming to cap point B.
Still moving forward, and remember in overtime those respawns take so much longer to get there. Sonjun clocked in the back and now is going to likely have an ignominious execution here. Oh, wait, Prophet went in for the 1 versus 1, or rather, Aprita went in for the 1 versus 1. Sonjun gets the better of him. That is a risk that Rhodes should not be taking at this stage in the map with only a minute to play with.
Yeah, they'll get them back soon. I tell you, this cart moves like molasses, so you can kill 1, 2, 3 people and it feels like you're not getting very far. The contest game from Seoul has been so good. Now they're on the high ground. Kind of give that up, and if Pineapple stays in this position, we'll get those first picks, those first bloods that Rhodes desperately needs. If that can be out to Lee Soo-min, deny the nano would be huge. Rally starts first for Coldest as Rhodes force their way through the choke point. The nano given to Krillin to fight against Coldest, who's now been slept. It's Seoul Dynasty's Tracer. Sunjun doing so much, but Pineapple at range needs to receive more pressure from Void or Sunjun, or Pineapple can try this comeback for Rhodes. 20 seconds left, and not much progress for Rhodes.
Tools to make it work, but still Sonjun is a thorn in the side of Rhodes. He might have to expend something here. They see Void, no mech. This would be an optimal time to use the bomb, but still can't even get the reach there as they have to use the recall instead. And now we're going to head into overtime. It has to be one push the whole way.
Self-destruct from Odium. able to get back into mech, but behind Odium is Seoul Dynasty, who are just surrounding this team and picking them apart like piranhas, and it's just not gonna work out for Rhodes to get to the end of C. But to get halfway there is still a very good showing for this Contenders team. But the win condition will be set for Seoul Dynasty to get to that box of victory and have a sweep.
I want to talk about Sonjin staying behind that long on point B of Rialto and how it works so well with a Seoul Dynasty playstyle. We talked earlier, Lemon, about how passive they are. They simply try and stall the cart and essentially almost lose slowly, waiting for Prophet to find a pick. And Seoul Dynasty are a fairly passive team, especially when they're playing with Velos Ria as well. And the way that Sonjin helps that is that they take a Pritter and they force a Pritter to go hunting for Sonjin. That means that there's less pressure on the support of Lee Soo-min and Krillin, and when there's less pressure on those supports, that's exactly what the passive team wants. They just want to sit there, free heal, and have Void sit in the way, and Sonjin does so much to make that happen by taking away a Pritter, which is a major flanking weapon.
I think Pineapple's done a really good job on point B to open up opportunities for Rhodes. It felt like it was just never going to get capped with how many minutes they had. It was like I wanted to melt my eyes out of my face watching point A, where it just felt like no matter what Rhodes did, first or second blood, it was never enough. Seoul Dynasty are so good at contesting and wasting time. Rhodes eventually win fights once they get ults, but won't be able to cap in that case. We'll see if Seoul Dynasty, right, are going to be able to be aggressive enough to push Rhodes off of the car and not allow them to do the same thing.
Prophet leading final blows right now for his team. 7 out of 8 eliminations. Plenty of final blows for them. Krillin at the moment, 6 deaths. Has certainly been a major target for Rhodes, and that may well continue here on their defense as Pineapple's going to scout these locations. And Prophet, will they be staying? No. Over onto the Sombra themselves now. This allows a lot more damage onto that tank, especially with the hack.
Yeah, Pineapple and Aprita tried to follow up with each other and got punished by Seoul. And especially as an Ana, that's so difficult to do. The Brig by your side, it's like a babysitter. It's great to have. Rhodes, with that opening, just are falling all the way back. Odium losing that mech is critical, especially with Seoul Dynasty already halfway to A. You don't even need ults to pull this off, but Rhodes need to generate this mech quickly.
Good combination to try and use that hack to shut down the defense matrix, meaning that Odium just has to reset here. But I'm not sure if there's even going to be enough time. Good block on the hack from Coldest, but it does mean that they're not looking at the D.Va coming in from behind.
Yeah, it might have just thought he had enough time to get the mech back, and maybe thought Coldest, Aprita, Pineapple could contest, but you can tell the structure, right, just falls away without Odium in the lineup. Would have liked if Odium just took an L on the cart, even as Baby D.Va. Would have taken more time away, but oh well.
I think seeding that one over, you're exactly right, Lemon. Bad call, and now 5-minute time bank for Seoul Dynasty here. And they've got plenty of ultimates here, but Rhodes are not going to be able to manage for a while. Sonjin, you can see, he's looking for a stick.
And gets it done! Seoul Dynasty, halfway to point B. This is a speed run. I feel like we should start reading donations right now. Game's done quick, Overwatch style. Seoul Dynasty dive even further and further to infinity and beyond. Rhodes need to not lose this mech. At least Odium will have the self-destruct, able to get back into it. And Seoul Dynasty do a bit of cart surfing.
Reload all the way down. Pineapple still yet to get the EMP. It's only onto 2, but support the core.
Rhodes are getting staggered. You don't have your Brig, you don't have ults, but you got a Prita and a Dream. And he's an A+ Tracer. Odium self-destruct forces Seoul around the corner. And some room to breathe for Rhodes, all thanks to a Prita.
Yeah, Prita certainly putting this team on his back right now. Oh, 10 final blows out of 19 kills on a current deadlift for the Tracer. And he's going to have to continue doing this for 4 minutes, Lemon. It's such a big time bank, but Pineapple can help out. The EMP. Oh, no. No. We all move away.
And almost died. Flailed by the Brig. Brought down to 50. EMP from Pineapple hits. Lee Soo-min and Krillin misses the sleep. Rally keeps them up. Void at arm's reach to peel for his supports. And Seoul Dynasty punish the dive of Rhodes, removing Odium. Now racing Back to the cart is Seoul, who are meters away from capping B with so much time remaining in that box of victory just on the other side. But Rhodes, they start to invest. They don't have their star player of Aprita, but they got Coldest with a rally. Just trying to stun and protect this room where Kaneki sleeps. Odium doesn't have a mech, and Seoul Dynasty are just simply too aggressive and too much for Rhodes to bear.
Aprita returns, but shut him down no matter the cost. Twice in a row. I want every resource aimed at that battle station. Aprita broken. Odium swapping to Xayah. It's a desperate gambit from Rhodes as they're stagger after stagger delivered by Prophet.
4 minutes. And one fight is all it takes for Seoul to send Rhodes to the lower bracket and to go up against the Hangzhou Spark. Odium back on the Zarya. Can late scale this damage, but an EMP is just the kryptonite, and you deny the pulse from Aprita. You can't get the hack on the Pineapple, but it doesn't matter. He disappears into existence along with Rhodes into the lower bracket. Back-to-back sweeps on broadcast today.
Unbelievable. Aprita, 11 deaths. He was being so heavily targeted. But Sonjun, the new kid, 12k damage compared to Aprita's 10, went 19 and 3. 6 of them final blows, yes, but this guy is surviving. And unfortunately, Rhodes kind of threw that map away by having that really weird EMP after Aprita had to double blink back to stop the Prophet back cap. There was no way that your Tracer would be able to join you in that fight. Odium barely managed to get there with the Diva thrusters. It was a bad comm, a bad decision, and Seoul Dynasty took huge advantage of that by keeping their backline alive. Excellent cross heals from Lee Soo-min and Krillin, and this backline not falling over is something that we've not come to expect, but I'm happy to see.
Yeah, and keeping the fans' hopes alive. Seoul Dynasty fans just in shambles after losing, you know, a big fan favorite of Prophet. Now PH taking over that name now, and replacing it with Sunjun, who has been incredible for this roster. A very reliable tracer, a star, a playmaker, exactly what the Seoul Dynasty needs to give themselves a fighting chance for a knockout spot. There is only one in the Group A bracket, a total of 2 for APAC. And Seoul Dynasty, I think, really impressed me today. Yes, it's against a contenders team, but Hangzhou Spark will be the true test for them, and that'll be in the semifinals.
Yeah, they were by no means guaranteed to beat Rhodes with a form that's been presented over the last few weeks before today, but Seoul Dynasty, they're looking like they have a plan. And that's exactly what I love. Previously, Seoul Dynasty were kind of caught in the camp of Prophet. Can you win this fight for us? And if the answer was no, Seoul Dynasty didn't win a fight. But now they've beat the Shambali one-trick allegations, winning on so many different maps and so many different styles, even winning with Belos Riarin, who previously had a very poor track record with this team. And I think that a lot of it comes down to the support line being so much better, but also the new kid popped off so hard. Sonjun went so mad, and he's only just turned 17. He's so young. He's a developmental talent with a huge amount of room to grow, and that is bloody exciting.
That is a really exciting player, and exciting to see the future of Seoul Dynasty. Your player of the match is the new kid on the block, the Tracer Man himself. Was just an absolute carry performance, forcing Odium single-handedly to just remove himself off Doomfist. Yeah, the hacks help and all, but just how he's able to mesh with Prophet. New Prophet, I guess. And just synergize with this team after just entering is insane.
And it's a lot to stand in the same place that the GOAT did. To come in at short notice on a high-stakes match, a knockout match, where you want to be the team to go forth and represent your own country in home territory, finally. You know what? Sonjun didn't break under the pressure. The high-pressure scenarios of Owl mean nothing to this kid. He just comes out, frags, plays what he knows, plays the Tracer that we all knew would be his best hero, and hey, he hasn't had to swap off it yet. Why start now?
It's always good to have a Tracer this capable on your team. And the only thing left to question is, what is his hero pool? How flexible is he? And how is he going to match up against Owl level talent now emerging from the contender scene and obviously making a huge splash Obviously, the Aprita versus Sunjun Tracer matchup was, I think, fairly close and very entertaining. Although the playstyles sometimes put me to sleep, but if it gives them a win, you know, stalling out the cart forever is how you're supposed to play these double flanker diva teams. Let's go check in with an interview with Sunjun and Unknown.
안녕하세요.
네네 마이크 나와요. 잘 나와요. 예예. 자 선준 선수. 네. 서울 다이너스티의 유니폼을 입자마자 POTM으로 선정이 됐습니다.
So you got the
소감
player of the
어떠세요?
match as soon as you had the Seoul Dynasty uniform on. How do you feel?
3대 0으로 이겨서 기분이 좋네요.
Well, I mean, before everything, I'm just glad that we had a
그래요.
3-0.
이런 인터뷰도 익숙하지 않고 이렇게 카메라가 비추는 것도 익숙하지
I mean,
않고
cameras, interviews
모든
are all
것이 다
probably
굉장히
very kind of
익숙하죠?
awkward and new to you. How does it all feel?
적응해야죠.
그럼요,
I mean,
그럼요,
it's
적응해야죠.
a little bit awkward, but I'm a
아무래도
leaguer now, so I
프로필
should be
선수의
used to this now.
대신해서 내가 뛴다 하는 게 좀 부담감이 좀 많았을 것 같은데.
I mean,
솔직히
yeah, you are filling
어떠셨습니까?
in some big shoes and the former prophet. Like, how does that feel?
솔직히 부담감은 별로 없었어가지고
오?
그냥 편하게 게임한 것 같아요.
And to be honest, it
부담감이
isn't that
없었다고요?
much of a burden. I'm just doing what I can.
아니 어떻게 그럴 수가 있죠?
I mean,
생각이 없는
it's
건데.
profit.
아니,
How can you not feel the pressure? Like, do you not feel anything?
안 하는 스타일인가요? 아니면 에라 모르겠다인가요?
Is it something like, hey, I'm really composed, or is it like, I just don't really have any thoughts about it?
그냥 제 실력에 자신감이 좀 있어서
I'm just pretty confident with my mechanics, my play. I think that's pretty much it. Not anything else to it.
06년생으로 18살이요.
How old are you? I was born in 2006, so I'm 17.
제가 알기로 고희 선수랑 거의 10살 차이가 나는 걸로
네.
알고 있는데
Wow, that's like 10 years of a gap with
형님들이
Void.
좀 어떻게 해줍니까?
How are the older brothers treating you?
아직은 다 안 친해가지고 잘 모르겠어요.
Well, I mean, I don't know really yet because I haven't had much time with them yet, so we'll find out.
그래도 선중 선수를 제일 좀 이렇게 조금이나마 그래도 좀 더 다정하게 이렇게 해주는 선수가 있습니까?
So, is there anyone on the team that tries to kind of color you the best?
이수민 선수랑 프로필
리수민.
선수랑. 그러면 그 자리에 있는 프로필 선수는 어떻습니까?
So, how is Prophet treating you, the man that you trying to fill in the shoes for? Well, to be honest, I haven't talked with him that much, so
18살 학생이랑
you know.
얘기하려니까 참 힘드네요. 네.
wow, it is actually
서울
very hard to talk with a
사실
17-year-old kid, huh?
연습했잖아요. 네. 그런데 경기에 나서는 것에 대한 당연히 또 부담이 없었다고 하겠지. 잠깐만 질문을 다시 바꿔.
So I need to change my questions a little bit. I was about to ask about the pressures of getting into the match, but let me change the question.
그래도 지금 흐름으로 계속 연승하지 않을까.
So how do you feel about the team's chances?
하긴 하는데
네.
I think, I think we can keep on this winning mentality going on.
그래서 이제 리그 데뷔해서 첫 번째 POTM으로 가져갔는데 개인적으로 뭐 좀 약간 리그 보면서 약간 이 선수랑 좀 붙어보고 싶다 이런 선수 있어요?
So this is your first player of the match performance after your OWL debut. Is there like a specific player that you want to play against?
붙어보고 싶다. 그러면 리그에서 나는
I think I
이런
want to go
선수처럼
against
되고
Zest.
싶다. 나의 롤 모델은 누구다? 있습니까?
Well, is there like a specific role model player that you're looking towards to?
프로퍼 선수.
프로퍼 선수.
Proper.
또 여기서 이제 같은 팀원을
저
말하는데
지금
I thought you would mention a Seoul Dynasty player, but oh well.
그래요. 아직 사회생활을 안 해봐서 그러잖아요. 그죠? 선수 선수
I guess you
다음번에는 이제
need a little bit
이제,
get used to
이모가
well,
붙어볼 때
team play.
따라가고
Maybe
있는데
next time for
아,
PR
그러니까
purposes, you might want to
개인적으로
mention
제가
Dynasty
물어볼 때
players.
다음번에 웬만하면 팀원 됩시다.
네.
Just a little life advice.
자,
Next time,
선수,
mention
앞으로
Euro
나는
teams.
이런 선수가 되고 싶다. 마지막으로 한 말씀.
Also, do you have any plans or
그냥
or I
항상
guess plans
경기에서
to how to
잘하는
play
모습
or what kind of player you want to be in the future?
선수가 되고 싶네요.
알겠습니다. 선준 선수,
Well, I mean, I want to be a player
오랜만에
that everyone can remember
기억하겠습니다.
and
네,
can
감사합니다.
follow.
예, 고맙습니다.
That's the end of the interview. Back to you, Lemon.
오히려 이렇게
Thanks so much, Unknown Sunjun, a man of, I guess, a kid? I don't know, man, kid? Of
A
few
fragger.
words. A fragger. Man of few words and few deaths. A true star. And I think a light in the Seoul Dynasty camp as they move on to face the Hangzhou Spark in the semis.
Yeah, certainly demanding respect from the big brothers, Lemon. But also interesting that he said that his role model was going to be proper and not profit. Hey, sometimes you just want to go for the former MVP and
Yeah.
really play that game.
Well, Group A is all done for today, but up next, Group B, Bracket 2, first match, O2 Blast versus Panthera. Do O2 Blast have what it takes to go up against Owl? Panthera cause an upset? You'll find out after this break.